Hello, and welcome to the next video in the Mega Man series. In this one, we're going to be making Sniper Joe. So let's take a look at the original game real quick. And Sniper Joe is a guard robot. And what he does is he has three actions. He jumps, he shoots, and he blocks. Now when he's blocking, he's basically invincible to Mega Man's bullets, but if he's shooting or jumping, it leaves him open to taking damage. And if Mega Man happens to get in front of him, then Sniper Joe will jump after Mega Man so that he can get back in front of Mega Man. So, as far as I know, I haven't found any documentation if there's any pattern to his logic between his choices and what he does. But if there is, then send it my way, because I couldn't find anything. So right now what I end up doing is I give him some little bit of brains. He chooses between those with probabilities, those actions. So let's take a look at ours that we're going to have at the end of this video. So we're going to see Bomb Bomb from our last video that we made. And here is Sniper Joe. What I ended up doing is I ended up using that probability function and giving him certain probabilities between his jumps and shooting and blocking. So it's still random, but it's not where he gets stuck on the same thing for like 20 jumps, for instance. So he'll block most of the time, or he'll shoot most of the time, and he jumps very little time. That doesn't look like here, but he does. And then if I shoot him and kill him, he'll drop an item, or in that case, he didn't drop anything. So I'm going to stop it right there. We're going to open up our previous project, and then we'll get started. Okay, so we have the previous project open. If you haven't been following along, description in my link in the description of this video, there's a link to my GitHub where you can download the previous project and all the assets. If you've been following along, open up your project. And we're going to take a look at the properties of this guy from the fandom site. So he's worth 5,000 points. He has 10 health points. If Mega Man takes a shot, he gets deducted 2. If he touches him, then he gets deducted 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the code. So we're going to get that out of the way. So what you're going to do is go over to your scripts folder and then enemies, and we're going to right click and we're going to create a new C# script. And we're going to call it Sniper Joe Controller. And what we're going to do is we're going to open that location up. Now I already have the file done, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to drop it in there and overwrite, and then we're going to go take a look at it. So we can close that, we can close that, give it a sec. There it is. And then we're going to open it up in Visual Studio. There we go. Alright, so Sniper Joe, he's pretty simple. So what we're going to do at the top here, we have these components that are going to be on our game object, the animator, box collider, rigid body, and the enemy controller that we created a long time ago. We have a series of bools here for if he's checking to see if he's facing right, if he's grounded, if he's blocking, if he's jumping, or if he's shooting. Then I have a flag here called do action. Do action is basically, if it's true, then that's when we're going to say, okay, now we're allowed to pick another action. What are we going to pick next? Then we have an action timer here, which is basically like a delay between those actions. However, I don't actually use this, but you can if you want to. Each action is basically picked one by one, but there can be a delay if you'd like, if you set this in between. So there's a little bit of a pause between each pick. And then we have a vector 2 here called jump vector, which is going to be assigned from our array down here of these two jump vectors. And then we have a bool here called enable AI, which is basically his logic, if we turn it on or off. And then we have a serialized float here, which is the action delay. So right now we set it to 0. And what you can do is you can set that to the actual delay, and it'll be a countdown. And this will be the value of the countdown. Now, Sniper Joe has two jumps. He has one where he's just jumping up and down, and he has one that jumps to get in front of Mega Man. So if you actually jump with him, try to, at the same time, he basically has about the same height as Mega Man's jump. So I actually use the same velocity on the Y that Mega Man's using, 3.7. So when he jumps up, there's nothing on the X, that's just straight up and down. And if he's going to jump in front, then we use 1.5. So it's very similar, exactly like Mega Man, so they basically jump at the same height and distance. Now in our wake function down here, we get a handle to each of those components. And our start down here, now all of our sprite sheets, they're all the sprites are facing right. Now we want this guy to start facing left, so what we're going to do is we're going to set is facing right default, and we're going to flip the sprite. Or actually flip the transform on the sprite. Now we're going to start out with the block. So he's going to start out blocking on the screen. And we have a fixed update here, which is going to be checking for if we're touching the ground or not. Now all this code is basically identical to what we've been using in the player and the big eye and other enemies that are basically grounded and that can jump. However, down here we have a variance in when he's landing from that jump. So what we do is we check if he is in the middle of jumping, which is his flag, and then we're also going to be checking his velocity on the Y, if it's less than or equal to 0. So we know he's coming down from a jump. And the reason we do this is because to be able to choose between the next actions, we need to make sure that he's not flying up. It's hard to explain, but it's a little buggy. So this is what I added in here to basically compensate for that. And if you disable this, you can see it in action. When he first starts jumping, it kind of like flickers. Anyway, you can disable this out and check it out for yourself. But we have this in here to have that not happen. And so we set is jumping the false, do action to true, so he's able to pick the next action. We show our block animation, and we set our velocity to 0 so he doesn't skid. And down here we have debug lines, which for his box collider, see if he's touching. These are not necessary, but if you want to type them out, you can. I'm going to just make it nice and easy for you to see it. So you can pause right there and type that all out. And these are just lines that show the bottom of the box when he's touching the ground. And if he's in the air, it's red. But if he's on the ground, it's green. Down here in the update, we basically see if he's frozen, then we kick ourselves out of the update so nothing happens. But if he's not frozen, then we ignore this. And then we're going to get a handle to the game object, or the player object, so we can find out where the player is on the scene. Then we're going to see if an AI is enabled, and if it is, then we're going to process all this logic, and otherwise nothing's going to happen. He's not going to do anything. So we're going to see down here if he's grounded and if he's not jumping. Then we're going to do all this. But if he's not grounded and not jumping, then we're going to assume that he's in the air, so we're going to play his jump animation, and this velocity is going to be based off whatever the jump vector X is plus whatever the current Y is. So it's going to keep that constant really going and updating itself. So we're going to assume now he's grounded. So we're going to see where the player is. So if the player is to the left of him, we're going to make sure that, and if Sniper Joe happens to be facing right, we want him to make sure, we want to flip him so he's facing left again. So maybe he just landed from a jump, he was facing right to get in front of Mega Man, but we want him to go back facing left again. And then since he's grounded and Mega Man's to his left, we want to make sure that we use the jump vector. That's the one that doesn't have X on it, so that's index 0. And then we're going to see if we're allowed to pick the next action. We're able to pick another action, then we're going to basically say, okay, that's true. We're going to come in here, and if there's a delay, we're going to count down the delay before we choose the next action. But since I'm not going to be using that, it should just fall through and pick the next action. And if he happens to be to the right side of Sniper Joe, which is down here, we want to make sure, and he's facing left, or if he's facing left, we want to make sure he faces right, and flip the transform so the sprite's facing to the right. And then we're going to use the jump vector that actually has an X on it, and then we're going to tell him to jump. So that's basically everything that's in the update loop, and that's pretty basic. And then down here, we're going to have some public functions here, enable AI, so we can do the, make changes and stuff through code in real time if we wanted to. Set the action delay, override the jump vectors, and shooting the bullet. So the bullet vector is going to be going straight to the left by default, so -1 on the X and nothing on the Y. If he happens to be facing right, then we're going to flip that bullet so it goes the other way. And then we're going to create a copy of the bullet from the prefab, set its name, set the position of it based off the bullet, shoot position, game object that was going to be a child of Sniper Joe that we'll create. And then we're going to set the type to the mini green bullet, and the damage and the speed are off the enemy controller. The direction is this vector that we created up here. We want to make sure the bullet collides with the player to cause damage. We're going to set the destroy delay to 5, and we're going to shoot the bullet. And then we're going to play the sound clip of the bullet shooting. Now down here are his actions, these functions. So we're going to block, so we're going to call the block animation, and we're going to say is blocking true, and we can't do any actions because he's in the process of blocking. At the end of the animation, we call this function to basically say we're done blocking, so we're not blocking anymore, and we're going to say do actions true so we can pick another action. So maybe he'll pick blocking again, maybe he won't, but he'll be able to pick another action after that, and then set the timer delay if we wanted that. And then we're going to jump. So if Sniper will play the jump animation, we'll say his jumping is true. Can't pick another action yet, and we're going to take whatever our vector is that we set earlier and apply it to the rigid body's velocity, so it shows them jumping. And then we're going to shoot. The shoot function plays the shoot animation. Is shooting is going to be true, and do action is going to be false until shooting is done. So at the end of the shoot, we're going to call this through an animation event called stop shoot animation. So shooting is not now false. We can now pick another action and reset the timer if we use it. So that's basically all his actions. Now down here we have a pick random action, which is based off this Unity article, which I've used many times throughout this series. So I don't know what his logic is, if he has any logic, if all of what he does is basically random except for jumping after Mega Man, but between his blocking, his shooting, and his jumping. So I'm going to use probabilities. I want him to have a 40% chance of choosing to block, a 40% chance of choosing to shoot, and a 20% chance of jumping. So he's going to mostly be blocking or shooting and not so much jumping. So he doesn't get stuck randomly picking, say, jump like 20 times, so he's like hopping up and down like a bunny rabbit over and over and over. It doesn't look right. So I wanted to give him a little bit of a brain, and so he's going to have these these weighted chances of doing these actions. So this function is basically based off of that article, nothing fancy. These are the probabilities here. The return value is going to be the index out of the array. This array here of probabilities. So it's going to be jumping, shooting, blocking, or whichever one. It doesn't really matter. Those are essentially the same value. Now down here is our choose next action, which we're going to call from up here. We're going to use this in a switch from our probabilities, and if the index is 0, we're going to jump. If the index returned is 1, we're going to shoot. And if the index returned is 2, we're going to block. So those are the actions we're going to choose from. And at the very end here, we're going to have our invincible animation and stop invincible animation. So these are going to be called through animation events. So basically that's the code for building Sniper Joe. It's very simple, very basic. So we're going to save that, and then we're going to come back over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the graphics and get his sprites. So we're going to go to graphics and Mega Man enemies and go to the sprite editor. He's up here. Didn't want to do that. It's actually right click. Okay, so he has 4 sprites, but 2 of them have to do with his shooting. So he's got his block, and he's got shoot 1 into shoot 2, and then his jump. So we're gonna grab these. Actually, you know what? Let's make sure we didn't make any changes on that. No. Hope that signs up. Okay. So let's grab these sprites here. So that's the block. That's going to be the shoot number 1. This is going to be shoot number 2. And this is going to be his jump. Alright, so first one, we're going to call it Sniper Joe Block. I'm just going to copy this part here. And the next one is going to be Sniper Joe shoot 1, then Sniper Joe shoot 2, and Sniper Joe jump. Alright, so you can see the pivot is in the middle of each of these sprites, but we're not going to have it there. So we're going to change that. So where it says pivot down here, instead of center, we're going to change it to custom. They're all going to be sitting in the middle of this stance, or in this case, the middle of this jump on this last one. So the pivot on this first one is going to be 0.58. The one on the shoot, we're going to change for shoot 1 and shoot 2 to custom, and that's going to be 0.51. And this one's also going to be custom 0.51, and on our last one here it's going to be custom, and the X on that is going to be 0.63. So now we have our pivots down in the bottom of our stance, so we're going to apply that, X out of that. So now we should have Sniper Joe, our block, our jump, our first shoot, into our second shoot. So now we're going to create the game objects. So up here in the hierarchy, we're going to hit the plus and we're going to create an empty. And we're going to reset the transform. I'm going to call him Sniper Joe. And Sniper Joe, the tag is going to be on enemy and the layer is going to be on enemy. And scale is going to be 1.5 because for the X and the Y, because the graphic is a little small. And then we're going to go over to the scripts folder and then enemies, and we're going to drag on the enemy controller. So that's going to give us all these properties. And then we're also going to drag on the Sniper Joe controller because we already have that done. So that'll give us all our Sniper Joe logic and everything. So starting out, we're going to change the sprite. We're going to make it the Sniper Joe block sprite, which is this one here. And then we're going to set him on layer 10 like all our other enemies. Now we don't have the animator yet, we're going to build that. Now the box collider, I'm going to reset that. I'm going to shrink this up, bring this over here so we can see what's going on. So there's Sniper Joe right there. Alright, so we're going to shave this down off this fraction. So we're going to make it negative 0.02 on the X offset. The Y is going to be the same. The size X is, however, going to be 0.24, and the Y size is going to be 0.22. So it brings in the 1 pixel all around. Now on the rigid body, we're going to add the slippery. And then we're going to say collision detection is continuous, sleeping mode is never, and we're going to lock our Z rotation. And we already did sprite renderer. Now on the enemy controller, he's worth 5,000 points as we determined. His health is 10. His contact damage is 4. His bullet damage is 2. Now his bullet speed is a little bit faster than 3, but I'm going to leave it like that. So you can play around with that value and make it faster if you like. So I'll leave that up to you. And bonus item is going to be random. His ball color is going to be green though. And the rest of that's fine. His damage clip for audio is going to be, I believe it is 9. His block attack is going to be the 11, which is the dink. His shoot bullet is going to be number 10. And he's got no energy fill clip. Now the bullet prefab, which we do have in the prefabs folder under weapons, we're going to drag over bullet to the bullet prefab. The explosion, which is the small explosion number 1, which is there, so we're going to take over explode effect 1 prefab from the prefab effects folder. And we don't have our bullet shoot position yet, but we're going to get to that next. So now with that done, we're going to right click on Sniper Joe, we're going to create another empty. This empty is going to be called bullet shoot position or pause, and we're going to undo the layer, so it's going to be layer default untagged. Now the transform, actually, I'm going to set the gizmo, so hit the little cube up here and we're going to put it to the yellow circle, or you can choose anyone you want, so you can see it's down here. We're going to change the X position to show where his cannon shooting from, so that's where the bullets are going to originate from. So let me see here, what is the value for that? So the position on the X is 0.1 and the Y is going to be 0.105. So when he's on his shoot animation, this is basically where the bullets are going to originate from. It should be where his barrel from his gun is going to be. Next, we're going to add on another. So right-click on Sniper Joe, create another empty. This empty is going to be called Hitbox. And that's also going to be on a default layer. Should hit enter. So rename it again if you have to, Hitbox. And then we're going to add on a box collider. And you can see the box is already all big and everything. So we're going to come over to the Sniper Joe. We're just going to copy the box collider from there because it's going to be the same. And then right click over here and we're going to paste it, the values. So now it's the same, but this is going to be a trigger on the hitbox. So that should set up Sniper Joe's properties. The only thing is now we need to create the animations. And what we can do though before we do that is now that we have a bullet shoot position, we can drag that game object over here to our enemy controller. And now we're going to save our changes. We're going to move this guy out of the way. And we're going to create the animations now. So go to the animations folder, go to enemies. We're going to right click in there and we're going to create a new folder. It's going to be called Sniper Joe. And we're going to go in there and then we're going to right click, create an animator controller called Sniper Joe. And then we're going to create an animation. And then we're going to call that Sniper Joe. We're going to do the block one first. Now the sample on that's going to be 1. So we're going to change the sample rate to 1 and no loop time. And then we're going to create another animation. This one's going to be the jump. It's the same, so the samples is going to be 1 and no loop, so don't check that. And then we're going to create another animation. This one's going to be called Sniper Joe _ shoot. This one's a little bit different. This one's going to actually have a sample rate of 12, but no loop. Okay, so we're going to double click on the controller, go back to the project tab. We're going to highlight the block animation, go back to the animator tab, right click, create state, from selected, and then Sniper Joe block. And then we're going to go back over to project, and then we're going to add in the jump. So highlight the jump, right click, create state, selected clip, Sniper Joe jump, and then the same thing with the shoot. So I'm going to do that. So now we have our 3 animations tied to this controller. First one we're going to do, but before we do, is we're going to select the Sniper Joe game object and drag over the animator. So now it's tied to him, so now we'll be able to actually do the animations. So we're on the block right now, so we're going to go over to the graphics and we're going to go find Sniper Joe block. We're going to drop that in there. I'm going to expand that so there we can see his block sprite. And we don't need to make any changes with the box collider because that's already default. That's the default image, so it's already, those are already set. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an animation event though, and then we're going to create, it's going to be on start invincible animation. So when he plays this block animation, he's going to call this function start invincible animation so that he goes invincible. And then we need another animation event. We're going to do that over at 1 here. We're going to add that. And then that's one is going to be the stop block animation. So then when he gets here, it's going to stop. And then that's when he'll be able to choose another action. Now he may be able to choose another block again. So it just looks like he's constantly blocking. So, or he might choose jump or he might choose shoot. It just depends. So that's it for the blocking. So now we want to do the jump. So the jump is going to be this sprite, and on the jump, we're going to add another animation event on the beginning, and then this one's going to be stop invincible, because now that he's jumping, you should be able to shoot him. So he's vulnerable to bullets and taking damage now. However, on this, the box collider is going to be different. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the record here, and we're going to click on Sniper Joe. We're going to change the properties on this. So his box collider on the offset X is going to be 0.0186, and his Y is going to be 0.155. His size X is going to be 0.151, and his Y is going to be 0.29. So we can't really see what's going on. I'm going to bring that over here so you can. So this is the box that's basically going around him on his jump. So I'm going to copy these. So copy that component. And then what I'm going to do is click on the hitbox here, and I'm going to paste the values. And so we have the same thing. So another box here. However, we're going to get rid of this property here so that we don't want to modify the trigger part. So that makes it a little bit faster. So that's it for the jump. There's no other events on the jumping. So we're going to stop recording on that. The last one we're going to edit, let's move that out of the way, is we're going to do the shoot. Now the shoot, we're going to start at 0, 0 with the first shoot, and then we're going to add it in with, 1 second. Then on 03, we're going to do shoot 2. On 05, shoot 2, and 08, shoot 2. Now technically, I don't think you need 5 and 8s. I just throw them in there just to be safe. Now, on 0, 0, we're going to add an event. So we're going to put an event there. We're also going to put an event at 5. And we're going to put an event on 8. So the one that's going to be at 0, 0 is actually going to be our stop invincible. The one that's going to be at 05 is actually going to be our shoot bullet. And the one that we have at 08 is actually going to be our stop shoot animation. So those are the events that are part of this animation. So the only thing left is now we're going to do the box collider changes. So back on 1, we're going to hit record, go back to Sniper Joe here, and we're going to edit his box collider. So on the offset X, it's going to be 0.0062, and on the Y, it's going to be still 0.12. I'm going to back and put it in there just so we make sure it turns pink, red. And then on the size, it's going to be 0.117 for the X, and then on the Y, it's going to be the same 0.22, so I'm going to just back that up and put the 22 there. I'm going to copy the box collider, and then I'm going to go down here to the hitbox, and I'm going to paste those values. However, I'm going to get rid of this trigger property, so we don't want to mess with that. And then here I'm going to just put those, I'm going to backspace those last numbers out just so that they get saved. All right, so that's on shoot the first frame, or the first part. Next one's going to be on 03. We're going to change the box collider on this. So we're going to go back up here to Sniper Joe. And the offset on this is going to be, for the X, is going to be 0.00248. And on the Y, it's going to be still 0.12. I'm going to back that to and put it back. On the size X, it's going to be 0.131. And on the Y, it's going to be 0.22 again. So I'm just going to put 0.22. I'm going to copy that component. I'm going to go over to the hitbox. I'm going to paste the values. We're going to remove that trigger property. So that's that one. Now on 5, we're not going to make any changes. It's going to be the same. But over here on 8, we're going to make it so we're going to do it again, just to be safe. So we're going to back to Sniper Joe, and we're going to back out that 8, and then we're going to put a 7 back and put an 8. We're just going to get rid of the last digit and replace it and put it back, just so that we know that it's recording them. So there. So you can see here that it's added those in right there. And then we're going to go over to the box. So we're going to go to the hit box and do the same thing. So we're going to backspace that, replace it, put it back, backspace, replace, back, put it back. So there we have all those set. Now we're going to stop recording and we're going to save that. So that is all for his animations. So we have Sniper Joe pretty much set up, so we're going to double check this guy here. And actually, we should probably just preview it. Okay, so this is his shoot. That's his block. And that's his jump. So back to his shoot, preview it. Boom, 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 boom. Alright, so now we can get that out. Alright, so Sniper Joe is done. I'm just going to check. Got that. We got his animator controller. We got a box collider. We got his rigid body set up. We got a sprite renderer set up. We got all his properties for the enemy controller. Got the bullet chute in there. Didn't forget that. And we got his controller, his Action Jack Sniper Joe controller attached. We're going to make him a prefab now. So we're going to go over to prefabs and enemies. And I'm going to bring this over so I can drag him in. Boom. And then now he's a prefab. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him up here after Bum Bum. And let's save the changes on this. And for his Y position, actually before we do that, shrink this up. We're going to bring him over here. So let's move him. We're going to put him up over here by the first platform. Bring this back out. That in so we can see. There. And now his Y is going to be 4.412256, which is basically when he's touching the ground here. So that's when he's actually landed and he's grounded. So I'm going to move him over just a tad. Gonna have him chase me across. So I gotta make sure he can be able to jump across. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on his AI. So we have his code, and we're going to see what he's run, how he works. Okay, shoot. He's jumping. Shoot me. Okay, now I'm going to make the cross and shot and jump. He's getting in front of me. Getting in front of me. There, boom. Killed him. Alright, so that's Sniper Joe. So that basically brings us to the end of the video. However, I'm going to use the remaining time here to actually modify the scene a little bit. But if you want to take Sniper Joe and run, by all means, you're free to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move his position. We're going to put him at negative 11.37, which is actually going to put him over here on the second broken highway. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to make changes to the scene. So what I want to happen is when I get past the bomb gap here, when I get over here and he just becomes into camera view, that's when I want his AI to actually activate. So we're going to turn off his AI by default. And we're going to save his changes there, and then we're going to edit the main scene. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to go to the main scene script, which is this, and I'm going to import some changes. So I will be right back. Okay, so I'm going to bring up meld here. Okay, so what we're going to change is we're going to add in a flag here called Sniper Joe Enable, which is a bool. So we're going to throw that in there. Then we're going to throw in the serialized float, which is basically a position check to see if I pass this, if the player's passed this position, and if it has, then we're going to activate as AI. So we're going to throw that in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to throw in this code in the explorations date, and we're going to see if Mega Man has passed that position and Sniper Joe has not been enabled yet. We're going to come in here, find him, enable his AI, and set that flag to true so this doesn't happen again. So we're going to add that there. Save those changes, and if I come over to here, it should refresh, which it did, and here's that code, here's the position, and here is my flag. Alright, so I'm going to come over here to the game now. We're going to play this. So I'm going to stand here, and Sniper Joe, if you watch over here, you shouldn't see him he shouldn't do anything, because right now his AI is disabled. So I'm going to come over here, jump across, and now he's in camera view, and now he's starting to do stuff. His AI just got enabled. So I'm just going to get past him. And there's my green bonus ball, yay! Alright, so now I'm going to stop it right there. So that is building Sniper Joe. So that brings us to the end. So if you enjoyed the video, found it useful, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, then you can subscribe to the channel. We're building little pieces of Mega Man here and there. Next video is going to be based on pausing the game. So and then that'll lead into the weapons menu, I hope, which has been on hold for the last 2 months because I got injured and I wasn't able to do anything for a little bit. So I kind of put that on hold, and I needed to kind of catch up with some other stuff here, so it didn't, so I wouldn't get stuck on doing that one project. So we're going to be working on that soon. So all the code is up on GitHub, links in the description, so you can go download the project and get the assets and everything like that. If you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord server. The link to that is also in the description. So I'll catch you at the next video. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Goodbye.